I'd like to introduce to you Bill, Haley, and Michael, a group of engineers who are launching Network.
What if I told you we're using our phones in the wrong way? Doesn't it seem like we have more ways than ever to make connections? But are we really making the connections that matter? Imagine you're at the Aggie 100, surrounded by inspiring entrepreneurs. But it can be hard to start that conversation with somebody you know little to nothing about.
Our app network locates professionals nearest to you at conferences and provides you with basic information about them, such as their job and interests, to empower you to start that face-to-face conversation. Our app will revolutionize the conference industry by changing the way you work the room and make those connections. Event organizers will want to partner with us because our app is free to them, easy to implement, and they understand the importance of networking to their attendees. Last year in the United States alone, there were almost 2 million events and conferences, with a total of over $250 million attendees. Event organizers spent over $300 billion, yet 75% of attendees say they wish there were increased opportunities for networking.
Unfortunately for us, we're not the only people that believe that this is a problem worth solving. We have 3 main competitors in the space: PresdoMatch, Shaper, and LinkedIn. PresdoMatch is a company that creates personalized apps for every conference, and this provides the users with important logistical information such as a map of the venue and a list of who else is attending. However, this comes at a very high cost to the conferences. Shaper is a Tinder-like app for people that are in the same city as you, where if you swipe right on someone and they swipe right back, then boom, you're connected. However, we do not feel that this is a very professional or efficient way to make a lasting professional relationship. LinkedIn is the company with the largest brand name recognition in this space. Everyone has a virtual account on LinkedIn. And they rolled out a new feature where it can help you find people nearby. However, it only is limited to your first connections, people who you already know. Our opportunity as a network is that, unlike PresdoMatch, we're free and universal. Unlike Shaper, we measure in meters, not miles. And unlike LinkedIn, we want to help you make new connections.
We see our growth occurring in 3 main phases: the development phase, the trial phase, and the expansion phase. The development phase kicked off back in January with an initial prototype of our app at TAMU Hack here on campus. And through continued development, we will launch our app on the App Store in June and complete the testing in August.
So we plan on having a soft launch of our app at the Texas A&M Career Fair Welcome Social in September. And moving into our trial phase, we'll take all that user feedback and data and incorporate it as we release version 2.0. From there, we'll pursue copyright and trademark protection as we move into our December launch at our first conference. And we will get into 3 more conferences by March 2019.
As we go into the expansion phase, we'll look at pursuing a second round of funding. We see our expansion phase happening in 2 main avenues: internal growth or external growth. Internal growth would come in the form of ad-based revenue, using a Google AdMob service to easily put banner ads on our app. The unfortunate part about this is we lose 40% of our revenue directly back to Google. To overcome these barriers, we'd have to make direct relationships with ad agencies and gather data to sell targeted ads. And as you can imagine, there's very high barriers to achieve that. But one way we could hurdle these barriers is through external relationships to scale our app. We could look at a strategic acquisition, a strategic alliance, or being acquired by another company. And we think companies would be interested in us because we can take them from a nice addition to a conference to an essential part of any networking event.
Looking forward immediately at the trial phase, we see 3 main costs associated with development. The first and largest cost is customer discovery and acquisition. We think it's key to survey our users to find out what they think is most important, and to travel to the conferences at which we're promoting our app so that we can get people excited about it in person. The second cost we expect is legal related, as we're pursuing the trademark and copyright that Mikhail touched on. And lastly, in order to have a back-end system for our app, we'll have to pay a monthly fee. In total, these costs amount to between $15,000 and $20,000. But we can't do this alone.
We're building this app for the next attendees of the Aggie 100 reception so that they can start up a conversation with those people that they once found intimidating.
For the college student trying to pursue the career of their dreams.
For the woman in technology, looking to overcome the cultural bias in the industry.
We are Network. And with that, Haley, Mikhail, and I will take any questions you may have.
Is there a reason you're aiming at ads versus partnerships with the conferences themselves? How was that internal conversation?
So I think, the best avenue for us is a strategic alliance where we keep our brand name and develop our brand and try to create that network effect, making our app more valuable. And especially a company like Freeman, who is the largest conference, they're the largest event planner in the United States. And we think if we could integrate with their technology, right into the conference's apps, just like you said, that would be the perfect avenue for us.
So yeah, thank you for your presentation. It's nice. We go to about 5 trade shows a year, most of which are put on by Freeman. All these trade shows all have their own apps already, and they were not, I think, listed among your competition. So how do you guys think you're going to break through into a Freeman market where there's already apps that are there?
We've seen that with Freeman. They've had a history of acquisitions, acquiring companies that add to their business. Namely, they just acquired an app that was called Cloud.com that helped with virtual presentations and getting the audience engaged. And we think that because Freeman itself isn't the ones making the apps for the conference, they'd like to have a tool like us that they can bring to all of their conferences.
Okay, so kind of a one-stop shop for
where they don't need a
somebody like
different
Freeman.
app for every conference, but there's just one that they can turn to.
Have you spoken to somebody at Freeman yet?
You might look into, so in DC, they've got like Red Hat and Cisco and IBM and Microsoft. Any one of them would pay you a lot of money to have a branded one at their conferences, and they do a lot of pimping up in DC. So, yeah, I would look into a company like that hosts a lot of events for sales, because then you're also generating a sales list, and God help us for all the additional sales that would bring. But I think maybe that might be a really good route versus the heavy saturated conference room.
That's very valuable advice.
Cool.
We would love to talk to you about it afterwards. That's
Come get my card.
yeah.
Is there any already location-based platforms like Foursquare? I don't know if they even exist anymore. But Foursquare, for example, can you API on top of something like that already exists, where you utilize a platform that already exists and put yours on top of it?
Yeah, we haven't found any APIs out there or anything like that. We're using iBeacon technology to find a relative location, so it may not know exactly where you are, on the map. But I can tell, my phone can tell how far I am away from Blake's phone, for example. And so we're kind of using the Apple support they have on that for the development.
Got it.
How are you going to populate the database with all the attendees?
Sure, so we think that when they first come to the conference, we'll have them set up a profile with us, which we would store on our user database. And then the way that iBeacon technology works is that every device has a unique ID, which we would associate with the person's profile. And so when you receive a signal from that device, you could use that ID to pair it with the person who it's associated with, and then we could use that to populate the list of the people around you.
So we'd be able to know exactly where you are in relation to her. So be like, you're closer to me. And so that would be at the top of the list, and as we go down.
Sorry, one last question, technical question. So at a lot of these big trade shows, Wi-Fi and broadband, are fairly weak signal-wise. So how would you guys overcome a limitation where there's just either not enough bandwidth or somebody's only got one bar, so you can actually find that person on the show? Because that, find that person on the floor instead of trying to say, hey, I'm by the whatever booth. That's nice.
Actually,
you got the good signal, right?
So yeah, we've thought about that. And so iBeacon technology uses Bluetooth, and it's like not a direct connection between our phones, but it's like a pair. And so as a result, Bluetooth technology is within a 70-foot radius, so it's really strong in our range. And so when it comes to a networking situation like this, it's incredibly efficient because Wi-Fi is not that good everywhere you go. And so that solves that problem.
And people have shown that iBeacon technology can get the radius down to about 5 meters. So we could even pull in these, like, populate this list with people you should be able to see from where you're standing.
Okay, safety aspect. I don't want to be the stereotypical Homeland Security woman, but have you thought of stalkers following you?